So obviously there's a misconception in the church that everybody who is rough or strict or pokes the flesh and makes you uncomfortable is a wolf. And that's not true. There are such things as sheepdogs. If we're sheep as the body of Christ, Christ calls us his sheep. He's the pastor, he's the shepherd. He has also designated sheepdogs, if you like. They are sheep as well. Obviously, that's where the parable breaks down. But there are such things as sheepdogs to keep the sheep in line, to direct them in a certain way. If we look at this sheepdog right now, he's trying to push them in a certain direction. He's making them, through training, knowing where they should go, trying to keep them all together and in line, kind of nipping at the heels. The sheep are kind of afraid of him a little bit. And there's the shepherd there who's guiding the sheepdog with whistles and directions and whatever, trying to get the dog to do what he wants the sheep to do, essentially. And that dog is very well trained. The other dog there isn't interested in it at all. That's, I guess, the false shepherds in the church, those people who are just doing things for their own benefit. But the other dog, he's a working dog. He's pushing the sheep to go in the direction that the shepherd wants. And that's the point. You need some kind of almost aggressive or violent attitude in order to do that, because sheep tend not to want to go where the shepherd wants them. Anyone who knows about my ministry knows that there's a lot of experience to do with sheep, because I grew up on a sheep farm. And as we can see, you need a shepherd who has a trained sheepdog in order to get the sheep to do what the shepherd wants to do. Obviously, the shepherd can't do that unless he's on a quad bike or something. This is the old-fashioned English or Irish sheepdog way to guide the sheep. But then we go somewhere with this other little dog who really isn't made for this job, really. It's not his calling, let's say. And he's trying to shepherd the sheep, but the sheep are literally turning on him and chasing him. And he's running around being chased by these sheep. He has got no control of them whatsoever. The sheep are just doing whatever they want. The shepherd isn't having the sheep go where he wants them to go. And the whole thing's a complete mess, basically. And now that sheepdog, quote unquote, is a big failure, right? The thing about the wolves is they want to ravage the flock. They want to eat the flock. They want to tear apart the flock. A sheepdog has no such desire. Its desire is to listen to the shepherd and do what the shepherd wants them to do. It might seem unloving, rough, whatever else to the sheep, but actually it's for their benefit. They're going into greener pastures. They're being taken into the barn for the winter. They're being guided in a kind of rough way to get there. That's the difference between a wolf and a sheepdog. A sheepdog is taking the sheep where they need to go. The wolf is actually there just to have a feast. And the false sheepdog, if you like, the one who doesn't have that calling, is bullied, bludgeoned by the sheep because he has no authority and he has no right to be in charge because he's too small, he's not strong enough, whatever else. He's just not built for that particular job. So, of course, when the wolves start to attack the sheep, when they're in the pen, they just have free rein, because unless the sheepdog is around, or if the shepherd's not around in some kind of explicit fashion, the wolves just have a field day. It's easy pickings. Sheep are easy to kill if you're a wolf, and they just tear apart the flock, seeking who they might devour, and the rest of them are waiting in line for their own demise as the wolves have their feast, ripping apart defenseless animals in comparison to the sharp fangs of a wolf. But obviously when the sheepdog notices, when it hears that the sheep are being ravaged, it comes to the rescue. It's on its way. It's up for the fight. It will take the wolves on head first, even if they're ganging up on him. In this particular one, it's 1 against 2. 1 sheepdog, 2 wolves. But he's tough. And now there are other sheepdogs getting in on the act. The sheepdog are checking the sheep. Now the shepherds are involved, leading the sheepdog to try and attack the wolf back so it will stay away. And there's the moral of the story. The wolves are held at bay. The rest of the sheep are protected. And the sheepdog has done his job, which is firstly and foremostly to obey the shepherd by protecting the sheep, his flock, from the wolves who are just looking for a meal. Does the sheepdog and do the wolves look like they are fellowshipping? Do they look like they love each other? Do they look like they should love each other? Of course not. Why? Because wolves are attacking the sheep and the sheepdog is trying to protect them. This isn't a place to try and iron out their differences. This is actual warfare, and whoever loses gets attacked, gets eaten alive, and will probably lose their life. And in the case of the sheepdog, will lose a lot of other lives. Whereas all the wolves have to lose is their meal and potentially their life should the sheepdog attack back well enough. I think you understand the parable.